سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله عليه الصلاة والسلام. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله صلوات الله عليه وآله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم اجعل قلبي بار عمري سارا عيشي خير رزقي تعالى ولا عاد ابرار وجعلني قبر النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم مستقرا وقرارا برحمتك. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى. نحمده ونستعينه ونثني عليه ونؤمن به، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف بريته ومبلغ رسالاته العبد المؤيد الرسول المسدد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله. We begin this first Friday khutbah by reminding all of you and myself to maintain the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll continue inshallah with the chapter of 40 ahadith on the Prophet's advice to our beloved first Imam. In the will of the Prophet, he was speaking to the first Imam. He said, Ya Ali, usika fi nafsika bi khisalin fahfadha anni. O Ali, I would recommend that you keep these attributes as my will to you. ثم قال اللهم أعنه. He prayed for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to assist him on this path. أما الأولى فالصدق. The first was to be truthful. ولا تخرجن من فيك كذبة أبدا. And never allow a lie to leave your mouth. وَالثَّانِيَةُ الْوَرَعُ, and the second is refraining from sin. وَلَا تَجْتَرِعْ عَلَى خِيَانَةٍ أَبَدًا, and never give yourself permission to betray the trust of another person, the amana that is given to the human being. We mentioned in the last khutbah that I was with you that in reality, if you asked a follower of the Ahl Bayt where this attribute and where this quality would fall in a list of priorities, they would tell you it would fall on a lower list of the priorities, on the end of that list. They would tell you in order to be considered a Shia of the Ahl Bayt, there's a number of other things you have to do. And those are things that typically people identify the Shia by. If you walk into a masjid and someone has their hands down while they're praying, typically that's going to mean they are from followers of Ahl Bayt. Yes, the Maliki school of thought, it's also allowed to have your hands down while praying. But typically, that means this person is Shia. If you walk in and the person is praying on a piece of wood or a piece of dirt or a turba or whatever the case might be, these are things we use to identify. We mentioned previously that when it came to the Ahl Bayt, what they used to identify their followers by were not these things. Yes, there were these things, but on the top of their priority list were other characteristics. Of those characteristics, the first two that the Prophet have mentioned in this hadith, as-sidq, truthfulness, and number two, that this person never betrays the trust of another person. So we mentioned this narration from the sixth Imam, Al-Imam As-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, in which Abdullah ibn Abi A'fur, the Imam sends salam to him, right? And he says, tell your friend Abdullah ibn Abi A'fur. So this is a companion who came and saw the sixth Imam. He's going to go back and meet Abdullah ibn Abi A'fur, famous companion of the sixth Imam. So the Imam told him, "Unzur ma balagha bihi Aliyun 'inda Rasulillah falzamhu." Look at what gave the son of Abu Talib that status in the eyes of the Prophet, falzamhu, and you take on those characteristics. You take on those attributes. So the Imam continued, "Innama balagha bihi ma balagha bihi 'inda Rasulillah." He reached that status in the eyes of the Prophet of God, بِالصِّدْقِ الْحَدِيثِ وَأَدَاءِ الْأَمَانَةِ, because he was extremely truthful in his speech and he would never betray the trust of others. This is a big claim. And if it was coming from anyone else other than the sixth Imam, we would question it. Yes? We would say, no, that's not what made the first Imam who he was. But the sixth Imam says these are at the very top. Of course, there's other things, but these are at the very top. So when you look into the narrations on the issue of amana are very, very serious. The Ahl Bayt, they took this very seriously. They emphasized it a lot. And the wording that they have on this topic is heavy wording. Sometimes you hear hadith, you read hadith, it's general recommendations. Sometimes you hear hadith and the hadith says, listen, if you get this done, it's going to make a difference for you when you're walking on the bridge of Sirat. This is different terminology than the other one. Yes? Sometimes you hear hadith, general discouragement from engaging in something. Other times, it says, no, this can get you into hellfire. There's a different wording in the narrations. When it comes to the issue of amana, that is the type of wording that you find. So let me begin from this narration from the fifth Imam, Abu Ja'far al-Imam al-Baqir, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. قال أبو ذر رضي الله عنه سمعت رسول الله. So this is narrating from Abu Dhar, who heard from the Prophet, who said what? حافة الصراط يوم القيامة الرحم والأمانة. So the two sides of the Sirat on that day, what makes them up? Ar-Rahim, maintaining your ties with relatives, and Al-Amana, and making sure that you don't betray trust. فإذا مر الوصول للرحم المؤدي للأمانة نفذ إلى الجنة. When someone comes who takes care of amana, right? He doesn't betray the trust of others. Number one. Number two, he's maintaining his ties with his relatives. Why did Islam emphasize this so much? Is a discussion for another time. This is, in my opinion, one of the miracles of Islam, that it emphasized maintaining ties with the relatives so much. Relatives is a big discussion, right? There's relatives who are very problematic. There are relatives who are a little bit easier to spend time with. Relatives come in all forms and shapes. But for some reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, the relatives and maintaining some ties with them, at least at a minimal level. This is wajib on you. At least those who are connected to you through the womb. Yes? And the rulings of the Maraji is different between those who have blood ties with you, those who have ties with you through marriage. Yes? At least with those who have blood ties with you through the womb, there's some emphasis in it in Islam. And when you look at today's world, you understand the social implications of this teaching of Islam. Yes? Nonetheless, he said when the person comes, he takes care of his rahim, number one. Number two, al-mu'addi lil-amana, nafadha ila al-jannah. He's able to make his way over to heaven, past the bridge of Sirat. وَإِذَا مَرَّ الْخَائِنُ لِلْأَمَانَةِ. When the person comes who used to betray trust. Al-qatu'u lil-rahim. The one who cut off ties. I don't like this cousin of mine. I'm not going to talk to him anymore. I don't like this uncle. I'm not going to go ever to visit him. In the words of Ayatollah Sistani, he says at the end of the day, when you're dealing with your relatives, they have to, your relationship, your interaction with them has to be at some level different from when you are dealing with strangers. This is the bare minimum. Yes. Assalamu alaikum, how are you? Alhamdulillah, wonderful. Everything going well? Wonderful. Bare minimum, bare minimum. He said when this person comes, al-kha'inu lil-amana, al-qatu'u lil-rahim, lam yanfa'uhu ma'ahuma amalun. He says this is a heavy terminology. No other deed that he carries with himself will help him if he doesn't have these two. lam yanfa'uhu ma'ahuma amalun wa takfa'u bihi as-sirat fi an-nar. And what does the sirat do? The sirat has him fall. He doesn't slip. The sirat has him fall. The sirat makes sure that he doesn't make it to the other side. This is heavy terminology from the Ahl Bayt. In another narration we read, and this is from the 6th Imam, narrating from the 1st Imam, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He said, Addul amana, return the amana, walau ila qatili waladil anbiya. He said, return the amana even if the person you are dealing with is what? Qatili waladil anbiya. He's going to kill the children of the prophets of God. So, why is this important? This has deep implications for our communities, brothers and sisters. In our communities, secrets are a form of amana. The trust that someone puts in you to be on the right side in an argument, in a discussion, in a debate. These are amana. So the narration is saying you have to give that amana, you have to do ada of that amana, to take care of that amana. Sometimes the other person you're sitting across you is not qatili waladil anbiya. He's not the one who's going to come and kill and all of this. He's a person you generally don't like him. But Islam taught, no, in that situation, justice. That situation, don't let your dislike allow you to violate his rights. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَنْ. The verses of the Quran have multiple wordings when it comes to this verse. It's mentioned multiple times in the Quran. عَلَىٰ أَنْ لَا تَعْدِلُ is one of the wordings of the Quran. Yes? So the Quran said, don't allow that grudge that you carry in your heart to allow you to not apply justice when it comes to this person. You don't like this person, but he has some other good qualities. But in certain situations, he's right. Do you have the sincerity and the decency to acknowledge when he is right? Take that into your own house, your family, your child. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes my wife is right. Sometimes my husband is right. My husband does 50 other things wrong. But a couple things he does right. I have to give him credit on those couple things. I have to be just. This is all part of amana. Amana is not As I mentioned a couple weeks ago, this thing where back in the day when you were leaving your home, you would come and leave your keys with somebody. We don't deal with that anymore. Yes? These are amana that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects us to take care of. Yes? I will read this last narration. This one is also from the sixth Imam, Al-Imam As-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He said, "Man khana amanatan fi dunya wa lam yaruddaha ila ahliha." The one betrays the trust, and he does not return it to that person in this world. Yes? So, back in the day, these were items that you would take. So he's done the khiyana, and while he's alive and he knows he has betrayed the trust, he still is not making up for it while he has the opportunity to, before the time of his death comes. For you and I, that means I shared a secret. I have to go ask for forgiveness. Now, there are very limited times where the maraji' say that if you've done something like that, if you've betrayed someone's trust, if it's a very heavy thing, that you know if it were to come to light with that person, it would fundamentally ruin the relationship. Yes? This is not marital relationship I'm discussing. Other relationships, yes? Then in those situations, they allow you to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Yes? But anything other than that, which is 90% of the situations, I have to go do what? I have to go ask for forgiveness. Okay, he says, the one who does khiyana of amana fi dunya, وَلَمْ يَرُدَّهَا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا. He does not return it to the person who owns this amana. ثُمَّ أَدْرَكَهُ الْمَوْتِ. And then death comes his way. مَاتَ عَلَىٰ غَيْرِ مِلَّتِي. He has died the death of a non-Muslim. He did not die living based off of my faith system, my belief system. وَيَلْقَى اللَّهُ وَهُوَ عَلَيْهِ غَضْبَانٌ. And he will meet Allah and Allah is angry with him. وَمَنِ اشْتَرَى خِيَانَةً وَهُوَ يَعْلَمْ فَهُوَ كَالَّذِي خَانَهَا. He said the problem with khiyana is so heavy that if you know someone else is bringing something to you that involved khiyana, yes, and you're just on the receiving end, you're not involved in the khiyana, you're just on the receiving end, فَهُوَ كَالَّذِي خَانَهَا. It's like you're the one who took it from that person. So there's a company, it invests in the type of things that we see today are used on the people of Palestine and Gaza. Yes? Now, this is a long discussion, but there are certain companies, they're directly involved. Yes? I'll go with that example. Directly involved. Okay, so you're not doing the khiyana. Someone else is doing the khiyana. Someone else is betraying the people. Someone else is violating the rights of the people. But you are now the one, ishtara khiyanatan. Now you're the one who is receiving from that khiyana. Yes? These are things we have to think about. Of course, we pray for the people of Gaza and Lebanon and all of those things. Part of it is the steps that we can take. These are simple steps. It may not make that much of a big change at the end of the day, but it's a responsibility Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed on my shoulders. When I know a company is directly involved, that's a red line. Now there's other times where you say, okay, maybe indirectly in this way and in that way, and those are where you can have discussions and so on and so forth, yes? When a company is directly involved, why? And I'll shed light on this as well, because there's always discussions about the fiqhi discussion on this topic, right? The fiqhi discussion gets very detailed. What I will say is, in general, it's out of ihtiyat, out of precaution. Maybe keep some distance. So you're not sure about, okay, it's better not to. Now if someone doesn't, about those areas, that's gray area. Don't point to them and say, you're horrible, you're this, you're that. Don't do that either. But maybe take some precaution yourself. Yes. But a company that's directly involved, or companies that are directly involved, this is no more, yes? And these are not rulings we're talking about today. These are rulings that have been there from the beginning of Islam. Yes? Islam said, لا تكن ظهيرا للمجرمين. Don't be the one who the mujrim relies on. Now, of course, our numbers are limited. This is, of course, a very well-known thing. But I have my duty. In whatever shape or form in my duty I can, then I have to be very cautious about that. He said, وَمَنِ اشْتَرَى خِيَانَةً. The one who does khiyana, but he is not directly involved. He is purchasing that item that was taken from somewhere else. وَهُوَ يَعْلَمْ فَهُوَ كَالَّذِي خَانَهَا. He is like the one who was involved in the khiyana himself. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who have these two characteristics, who make it onto the other side of the bridge of Sirat, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين أثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا ثم أصلي وأسلم على نجيبه وجليله وحافظ سره الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرضين بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم صل وسلم على علي أمير المؤمنين وفاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين وعلى سبطي نبي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة وعلى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في أرضك صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات. عباد الله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله. We begin the second Friday khutbah by reminding all of you and myself to maintain the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We reach verses 38 onwards of Surah Qaf. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ وَمَا مَسَّنَا مِنْ لُغُوبٍ. We certainly created the heavens and the earth and everything in between them in 6 phases and 6 periods. وَمَا مَسَّنَا مِنْ لُغُوبٍ. And none of this tired us. None of this fatigued us. We mentioned that this verse of the Quran is an introductory verse because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to draw conclusions from this. And that is the one who has the power to create the heavens and the earth. Initially, He certainly has power to resurrect everyone, to come back, to be held accountable. So from that verse comes verse 39. فَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ. Ya Rasulullah, their time will come. The time where they have to be held accountable will come. So in the meantime, فَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ. So be patient with what they say / do, with what they plot, all the items, yes? All their different actions. فَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ. وَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ قَبْلَ طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ وَقَبْلَ الْغُرُوبِ وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَسَبِّحْهُ وَأَدْبَارَ السُّجُودِ. And during these times, before sunrise, and before sunset, and during nighttime, these are the 3 periods of prayer technically, yes? Worship Him, فَسَبِّحْهُ وَأَدْبَارَ السُّجُودِ. And after you are done with your prayers as well. Many mufassirin said this refers to the ta'qibat that someone does after prayer. Okay, Ya Allah, I'm supposed to be patient until when? So what's going to happen? Just patient. So the Quran said, verse 41, وَاسْتَمِعْ يَوْمَ يُنَادِ الْمُنَادِ مِن مَكَانٍ غَرِيبٍ. وَاسْتَمِعْ means listen carefully. Yes? Different from sama'. Istima' means when you pay attention, when you listen carefully. And the Mufassirin said within this istima', is paying attention carefully, there is also the meaning of intidhar, awaiting this time. So the Quran said, be patient while you do this, while you await the time where the call will come. Now it's very interesting because of course this call is what call? Is the time where Israfil blows into the trumpet. This happens of course 2 times. This verse of the Quran is speaking of the second time. Skipping over the first time, speaking of the second time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very beautifully, He does something which He does very often in the verses of the Quran. He skips over your whole life. I lived 70, 80 years. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, yeah, I know, 70, 80 years, 100 years, fasbir. Be patient. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the verses of the Quran speaks to us in 2 different ways. There are times where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to us and He addresses the most detailed things that happen in our lives. Yes? Ya Rasulullah, when they say this, don't get sad. Ya Rasulullah, when they come and do this. There's other times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts things into perspective. Yes? The Quran uses both of these ways. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala putting things into perspective. Sure, you have to be patient. Sure, the Quran has guidelines about this 70, 80 years. So much of the Quran is about what you're supposed to do in that 70, 80 years. So that's from one angle. From the other angle, the Quran is dismissing this 70, 80 years. In the sense that if you compare it to the afterlife, to the hereafter, it's almost like nothing. We're just going to skip over it. So we're going to not even acknowledge it. Of course, we know the Quran acknowledges the 70, 80 years. I told you to pray 5 times a day, fast, all of this kind of stuff. But the Quran is saying when you put it into perspective, this 70, 80 years or 100 years, it's not much. Yeah, be patient, and then something's going to happen. And then there's going to come a time. And then wait for that time where the nida comes. Almost as if the nida is the main event of my life, not even the 70, 80 years. So Quran is putting things into perspective. This is, for you and I, a little painful because we're used to this 70, 80 years. But the Quran says, listen, from my perspective, this 70, 80 years is a very small part of your life. That's why sometimes we'll just skip over it. We're not even going to acknowledge it. And the narrations tell us also what? That one of the many reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts difficulty in the lives of the believers is for them to also give up on this life so that when their time comes to an end, it's easy for them to walk away. So I look at the world today, and with what is happening in that part of the world, I feel like, you know what? From deep down, this love that I had for the different things in this world, yes? I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that. And I don't feel that love anymore. I don't feel that, sense of, let me go do this, let me go do that. And I don't feel that sense of love for this life. Sure, I'm living, but I don't feel that sense anymore. This is part of the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the human being who is so deeply in love with the life in this world, when they tell him you have to go, it feels like punishment to him. It feels like torture to him. Many scholars have pointed out that the punishment of the grave, yes, is what? Is the soul feeling like it's being pulled away from something it identified with its whole life. His whole life he identified with, this is my house, this is my income, this is the life that I live, these are the trips I go on, these are the pleasures I engage in. This was his whole thing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to ease that process, what does he do? He shows him a little bit of the ugly side of this world. A little bit of the ugly side of this world. Then he sits back. Of course, we're taught as Muslims, we always enjoy life. There's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, he sits back and he says, you know what? It's not as amazing as I thought it was. It's not as great as I thought it was. I'm not in love with it as much as I used to be. What life is this where people can do the type of things that's happening right now and still get away with it? And who said this the most beautiful than all? The third Imam, Al-Imam Al-Hussein, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. He said, Inna min hawanid dunya. If you want to know how terrible this world is, know that it is so terrible that the head of Yahya, the head of a prophet of God, will be gifted to an evil ruler for his pleasure and for his happiness. This is the nature of this world. And we used to read these narrations and say, yeah, back in the day it used to be like this. Now we are living this. Now we're seeing this. Now I see that heads are being gifted to empires. Heads are being gifted and presented to the powers of the world. So if you look in that part of the world, what's happening right now? Just today, right now it's nighttime, of course, on that side of the world, yes? But in the day that passed, 81 Palestinians were killed. 81. Yani these numbers are Pharaoh-like numbers. They are people who dehumanize others. They don't even consider others to be human. My own child, if he takes on the smallest cut on his hand, it's a problem. The other children in the world, it doesn't matter. If they are killed, they are massacred, they are hungry, they are thirsty, whatever the case might be. Yes? Thousands have been arrested. This is in north of Gaza, yeah? Jabalia. Thousands have been arrested, taken into custody. Where do they go? What happens to them? Only Allah knows. And I'll share this with you as a personal anecdote. There are nights I stay up at night Yes, thinking about what happens to these prisoners. Because later you hear the reports. Later you hear what happens. It keeps you up at night. This is the nature of this world. Maybe one of the silver linings of this is at the end of the day, I sit there and say, wow, it's not as great as I thought it was. This is a bad place. The dunya is a bad place. Not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it a bad place, but because there's evildoers and they implement their evil in this world. And it's only good if I can find my way through this place to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rest of it doesn't sit well with you. So I'm living a comfortable life. We all are living comfortable lives, yes? But then, what is the pleasure of living this comfortable life when there are people who are being torn apart? This tells you that this world has an ugly side to it. Ugly side to it. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy my life, I don't plan, I don't strategize, it means I don't fall in love with this world. Yes, one day it's them, another day it's another person, another day it might be me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests with these tests. What else has happened? Yes, north of Gaza, there's an operation called the Operation of Generals, which means what? It means no food, no medicine. It's fundamentally being annexed. Okay, that has been going on for a number of days. Just yesterday, the final hospital that was in operation, Kamal Udwan Hospital, yes, it was in siege, and now it has been attacked. In Lebanon, a house full of journalists were killed. Yes, it was bombed and journalists were killed. This is the world that we live in, brothers and sisters. And the lesson for you and I is that number one, I always, as a Muslim, have to place myself in a position where I will have the power, the authority, the influence, the resources to uplift my own community. That's lesson number one. And number two, that there is a very ugly side to this world. And that I should never fall in love with this side of the world, knowing what happens on the other side of the world. Yes? It's very interesting, the double standards. When Russia invaded Ukraine, the ICC was asked to issue an arrest warrant, yes, against Putin. How long did it take? Less than 15 days. Less than 15 days. The ICC has now been asked to issue an arrest warrant, yes, for the Prime Minister of Israel. How long has it taken? 5 months. 5 months. And it's still, the clock is still ticking, and they're still looking into the matter. They're still ruminating, they're still pondering, they're still thinking about it. This is the world, brothers and sisters, that we live in. And I've mentioned this before, you will hear this from me many times. Raise your children understanding these issues. Yes, they don't need to see all the graphic things, yes, but they have to understand what's happening in the world around them. They have to understand from a young age that this is the world they live in. If you're in high school, if you're in college, this is what you have to keep in mind. When you waste your life on other things, other people will come and rule over you. Other people will come and dictate things to you. Why do you think Palestine is in this situation to begin with? Because of decades of Muslims not being in a position to defend themselves. Decades of Muslims being ghafil. They're just living their lives. And the enemy kept coming and coming and coming and making itself more established and more established and more established and more established. So this is the connection between what's happening on that side of the world, brothers and sisters, and what that means for us. Is a very strong connection. Never assume, yes, these are sad things that are happening on the other side of the world. Yeah, I feel sad a little bit and I feel, no, it has a lot of messages for you. It has a direct implication for you. Not in a direct way in terms of that conflict. In the sense that you have a responsibility. I have a responsibility. Yes? It needs to be a motivation for you and I that when I see Muslims in other parts of the world are being massacred, then I say, okay, at least where I'm living, I have an opportunity to uplift my community. I have an opportunity to become a means of support for them and also for folks who are here. This should be motivation for us. We should take that and we should use that to uplift our own communities, which will, inshallah, definitely be in the betterment and in the direction of the well-being of general society. Yes? We say uplifting Muslim communities because that will contribute to the well-being of general society and all of the other citizens of this country, as well as all of the other countries in the world. The Quran said, when that day comes, وَاسْتَمِعْ يَوْمَ يُنَادِ الْمُنَادِ مِنْ مَكَانٍ غَرِيبٍ. Wait for that time where that call will come. What happens? يَوْمَ يَسْمَعُونَ الصَّيْحَةَ بِالْحَقِّ. They will certainly hear the call and the sound of the trumpet. ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْخُرُوجِ. That is the day where they begin to leave their graves. How they leave their graves, what they say in those moments, the situation that they have in those moments, the Quran has described in detail. What does this person say when he leaves this grave? What does this person say who massacred thousands? Now he is being called from the grave. The Quran narrates for us what this person says in those moments. Inshallah, that we will leave for the following weeks. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. Before I end, inshallah, before I forget, a couple of important announcements we have, inshallah, and I bring this up because I believe this is a milestone for our community. And that is that, inshallah, on November 1st, we have the Youth Lounge launch. For those who might have been upstairs, maybe for overflow for Muharram, you've been upstairs and you've seen the place. But of course, a lot of changes have happened, a lot of edits have been made, and a lot of renovations have been made, and the hall upstairs looks very different. Why is this a milestone? Why am I taking your time in Friday prayer? Because, brothers and sisters, this is unique. Okay, I always jokingly, and forgive me, jokingly, when folks from other cities come and visit City of Knowledge, I tell them, I say, this hall that we have upstairs, that we've dedicated as a youth lounge, which is close to 3,000 square feet, yes? I jokingly say, typically this would end up being a kitchen or a dining hall. In a lot of other places that you visit, yes, this typically would be a dining hall. You know, the elders would say, we need a place to eat food. So we don't have room for our youth to spend time and to hang out and so on and so forth, yes? But for us, this is very important, yes? And I want to thank all of our dear community members who have trust in the leadership in terms of making these decisions. That's a big thing. That is something that we have to be very thankful and grateful for. But I always jokingly say this would typically be a dining hall. And then we would say, you know, the youth, yeah, they should go find a place where they want to spend time. No. We want our younger generation, to whatever extent possible, we want them to come to spend time with one another here, to engage with one another here, to, inshallah, in the future, build friendships amongst themselves, yes? Maybe they have the opportunity to find their spouse within the community. Isn't this a problem? It's a major problem. Every single community I visit, say we have a problem of folks not being able to marry within the community, yes? Why shouldn't they have an opportunity to come, spend time, and build friendships at a younger age, and then inshallah, down the road, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has willed for them, inshallah, will happen for them, inshallah, in a supervised environment, in a positive environment, inshallah. So this is a milestone. This is a milestone because it's a big investment. It's a big step for our younger generation. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to continue to serve that younger generation. And so I'm saying this for the younger guys, yeah? And so that younger generation will also come forward to carry the burden moving forward. Yes? Those of us sitting here, we're 50, 60, 70, a lot of experience, mashallah. Yes? We're not going to be able to carry this for the next generation. The next generation has to feel a sense of ownership to come and carry this. I mentioned this in the Eid khutbah. I'll mention it again. What hopefully will make City of Knowledge successful, if that becomes the case, only Allah knows. But what will be a sign of success is not I, as a 50-year-old father, come in praying on this prayer mat, on this carpet. What will make it a success is if my children come and pray on this carpet. If my grandchild comes and prays on this carpet. That is something I can look at and say, yes, we collectively have been successful in what we were trying to do. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that tawfiq. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Maulana talked about the youth. Maulana talked about us coming together. 2 weeks ago, I made this announcement. This is an important week for the community here in Dallas, Mormon community. This weekend at Westin Galleria, we have Imamia Medico International Annual Convention. You all are invited. You're truly invited. Maulana talked about the youth. We have a youth section. We have a wonderful women's section. Any one of you are welcome and invited to attend that. I assure you, there will be something for each one of you. And we truly emphasize, there will be speakers from all over the country. There will be a gala dinner Saturday evening. Please, as many of you can join us, we will be delighted to have all of you. We talked about networking. This is the time to network across the country, not just within Dallas community. So there will be people from all over the country. And Saturday, that is tomorrow, the CME Medical Education Program starts early, 8 o'clock. The gala is at 6 o'clock. We would love to see you there. I'm honored to mention that Waji Rizvi, who's the founding president of the IMI, is here among us today. So please don't disappoint us. I would like to see a large community gathering there. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maulana.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد. وأن عليا حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما. قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة وبعد المعصية. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقوم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة وبعد المعصية. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله العظيم الحليم. لا إله إلا الله رب العرش الكريم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والغنيمة من كل بر والسلامة من كل إثم. اللهم لا تدع لي ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا سقما إلا شفيته ولا عيبا إلا سترته ولا رزقا إلا بسطته ولا خوفا إلا آمنته ولا سوءا إلا صرفته ولا حاجة هي لك رضاه ولي فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. There is no God except God, the all-supreme and the all-forbearing. There is no God except God, the Lord of the noble throne. All praise belongs to God, Lord of all the worlds. O God, I beseech you to grant me that which will call forth your mercy and make certain your forgiveness, and grant me a share of every virtue and safety from every sin. O God, do not leave any of my sins unforgiven, nor any grief unrelieved, nor any illness uncured, nor any defect unconcealed, nor any provision unenhanced, nor any fear unalleviated, nor any evil unrepelled, nor any need of which you approve and in which lies my welfare unfulfilled. O most merciful of the merciful, Ameen, O Lord of all the worlds. Salawat.
I mean, just a quick reminder about upcoming programs and events, inshallah.
Just a quick reminder about tomorrow's event that was announced earlier, the Imamia Medics International event, tomorrow, October 26th at 3:30 p.m. They will also be including a special presentation on Lebanon by Sadr Foundation, Representative Dr. Maha Al-Husseini, and they will also be having a special guest, Hamid Al-Sadr, who is the son of Imam Musa Sadr of Lebanon. Another reminder, tonight we will be having the Seekers Club event here at DYG, actually City of Knowledge Main Hall with Sheikh Amin Ristani. Another upcoming event, we do have the middle school Trick or Gin event by Dallas Youth, October 31st. This is for brothers and sisters ages 11 through 14. We also have the visit to Marhumin coming up Saturday, November 2nd with Sheikh Mahdi Rastani, and a Joy Club event on Sunday, November 3rd, 1 p.m. through 3 p.m. Alhamdulillah, we also have a Friday family fun night coming up November 8th, and Mizan Institute is having the second part of the Mahdi course with Sheikh Mahdi Rastani here on November 9th and 10th. Again, all of these events some of these events are registration only. So for the visit to Marhumin and the Joy Club event, please register. And for the Mizan Institute event, you will need to go to Mizan Institute's website and purchase tickets. Note that there will be an increase in the course fee from November 2nd onwards. All of these events, details for all of these upcoming events are present online on our webpage, cfkdfw.org, and are also communicated via our WhatsApp group. So please, if you visit our website, you can also find the link to subscribe to our newsletter and to our WhatsApp group. Jazakallah to all our sustaining members, donors, volunteers, and program sponsors for your contributions. If you are not a member, please consider becoming one by contacting our membership director, Brother Asif Patel. For opportunities to donate, sponsor programs, and help behind the scenes, please speak to myself or any of the existing volunteers. I would now like to request everyone to please recite a Surah Fatiha for the Marhumin of today's Niyaz sponsors, and let's please also include our own Marhumin and the Marhumin of the Ummah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأن عليا حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استغفر الله ربي يا محسن قد أتاك المسيء وقد أمرت المحسن أن يتجاوز عن المسيء أنت المحسن وأنا المسيء فبحق محمد وآل محمد صل على محمد وآل محمد وتجاوز عن قبيح ما تعلم مني الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة وبعد المعصية. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم
صل على محمد.
Let us recite all together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Everyone. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأسأله أن يتوب علي توبة عبد ذليل خاضع فقير بائس مسكين مستكين مستجير لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن علم لا ينفع ومن صلاة لا ترفع ومن دعاء لا يسمع اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر والفرج بعد الكرب والرخاء بعد الشدة اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد I beseech the forgiveness of God, besides whom there is no God, the living one, the all-sustainer, the all-beneficent, the all-merciful, the Lord of majesty and munificence. I beseech him to accept penitence of mine as a servant who is weak, humble, needy, destitute, indigent, and miserable, a fugitive seeking refuge, who has neither any power to obtain any benefit for himself, nor to avoid any harm, nor any power over his own life, death, or resurrection. O God, I seek your protection from a carnal soul which is never satisfied, from a heart that is not humble, from a knowledge that brings no benefit, from prayers that are not taken up to the heaven, and from supplications that are not heard. O God, I beseech you to grant me ease after hardship, and relief after pain, and ease after distress. O God, whatever blessing we partake of comes from you. There is no God but you. I beseech your forgiveness and revert to you penitently. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا حبيب الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين السلام على 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته اللهم صل على